My ex-wife and her new husband demanded I triple my child support, so they never worry about money. What I discovered later wrecked their little fantasy. Sup Reddit. Never thought I'd be posting this here, but my brother swears it's Reddit gold, so here we are. Grab some popcorn and enjoy the show. I, 32 male, married Talia, 30 female when I was 26. She was a paralegal. I ran logistics for a freight company. We met through mutual friends, dated for 2 years, and got married. Standard stuff. About a year later, Talia announced she was pregnant. Said she miscalculated her cycle, forgot to take her pill a couple times. I didn't think much of it. These things happen, right? Our daughter Nola was born 9 months later. Full term, healthy. I loved her immediately. Did all the dad stuff. Diapers, late nights, the works. Thought I was living the dream. Parenthood put a spotlight on every crack in our marriage. Add a screaming infant and suddenly we're arguing about laundry, sleep, who sacrificed more. Classic new parent drama. Around the time Nola turned 2, things got weird. Money started disappearing from our joint savings. When I asked Talia, she'd claim groceries, Nola's stuff, household expenses. But the numbers didn't add up. Then I noticed charges that made no sense. Random cash withdrawals. Weird transactions to online payment processors. Hotel stays when she claimed to be working late. I started documenting everything. Over 8 months, she'd burned through nearly $18,000. The breaking point came when I checked my personal savings account, the one I'd been building since before we even met, and found it damn near empty. $22,000 gone. I called the bank. Turned out Talia had gotten herself added as an authorized user years ago when we first got married. Some nonsense about being able to handle emergencies if something happened to me. I'd completely forgotten about it. The transfers had been going out steadily for months. Hundreds here, 1,000 there. All to her personal checking account. That night, I confronted her. What the heck is this? I shoved the bank statements across the kitchen table. She barely glanced at them. I needed that money. For what? That's my business. It's my business when you're draining my personal savings account. That's $40,000 gone, Talia. We can rebuild it. We? I built that. That was my money from before we even got married. She just stared at me with this dead expression. No guilt, no remorse, just cold calculation like she'd been caught but didn't really care. So what now? You gonna divorce me? Already called my lawyer. You've got 30 days to move out. You can't kick me out of my own house. Watch me. I'm the only one on the mortgage. You just stole $40,000 from me. My lawyer's pretty confident the judge will see things my way. She moved in with her mother 2 weeks later. Took Nola temporarily. I didn't fight it. Figured we'd sort custody through the courts like adults. The divorce took 8 months. 8. My lawyer pushed hard on the theft issue. Hired a financial expert who traced every dollar. Turned out Talia had a gambling problem. Online poker mostly. The money I'd earned and saved for years had been thrown away on bad beats and tilt sessions. Her lawyer tried to argue it was marital assets, that addiction was a disease, that she deserved compassion. The judge wasn't having it. Mrs. Talia deliberately concealed her gambling activities and systematically drained the plaintiff's personal savings account, funds that predated the marriage. This goes beyond marital asset division and constitutes financial misconduct and theft. The final divorce decree was brutal for her. I got the house. She got jack squat for spousal support. Judge said her gambling addiction and theft disqualified her from alimony. Child support was calculated fairly based on our incomes, but the judge also ordered her to repay $20,000 of what she'd stolen in installments over 3 years. The financial expert could only definitively trace $20,000 back to her gambling. The rest had been cash withdrawals with no paper trail, so the judge could only order restitution on what was provable. She tried to negotiate that down. Judge refused. You have acknowledged these expenditures occurred. The financial analysis shows the money trail for at least $20,000. You will repay what we can prove you stole. We split custody roughly 50-50. Nola was with me Monday afternoon through Thursday morning, with Talia Thursday afternoon through Monday morning. Despite everything, I never brought up the paternity doubts. I'd raised Nola. My name was on the birth certificate. Figured that was that. The $20,000 she owed me started coming in monthly. $555. Automatic and court-ordered. Felt good watching that money trickle back in. For about 6 months after the divorce, life was stable. I paid child support, handled my share of expenses, showed up to events. Thought we'd reached some kind of equilibrium. Then Talia met Corin. About 6 months post-divorce, Talia started mentioning someone new. Corin. I met him once at one of Nola's soccer games. Boat shoes, popped collar, looking like every finance bro stereotype come to life. Gave me an overly firm handshake, called me chief, talked about his career in wealth management for 15 minutes straight. Must be rough, though, paying child support, he said, like he was commiserating. It's what fathers do. Right. Still, adds up, I bet. They got engaged fast, maybe 4 months later. Corin moved into Talia's apartment. Nola mentioned he'd taken over with his stuff, constantly on his laptop talking about big deals, but never actually going to an office. He's okay, Nola said when I asked. Kind of annoying. Always home, eats all the good snacks. Does he work? She shrugged. Says he works from home. Mostly watches TV. Then Corin started calling me. The first time he wanted to touch base about Nola's expenses. Just making sure we're on the same page, he said. It's already in the divorce decree. Right. I just think we should formalize communication. For efficiency. The decree covers it. The second call came a week later. Talia mentioned you split soccer fees 50-50. Given your income level, maybe you should cover more. Like 70-30. That would really help us out. The decree says 50-50. Your income's probably increased, though. And honestly, Talia's struggling financially. That repayment thing is killing us. She stole that money. She's paying it back. That's how consequences work. Water under the bridge, man. If Talia wants to modify support, she can file with the court. Stop calling me. The third call was the kicker. I've been looking at your child support payment, and frankly, it's not enough. Talia's cutting back her hours at work. Wants to be more present for Nola. Family first, you know? She's voluntarily reducing her income and expects me to compensate? It's about priorities. If you're living with her, why aren't you covering the gap? Silence. Then, that's really none of your business. But my income is your business? You're Nola's father. You have responsibilities, which I'm meeting. If you keep calling, I'm documenting it as harassment and filing a restraining order. I'm just trying to... You're trying to squeeze more money out of me while living rent-free in her apartment. I know exactly what you're doing. Get a real job, stop calling me, and maybe try actually contributing to the household instead of playing financial advisor on YouTube. He hung up. I immediately texted Talia. Your freeloader husband needs to stop calling me about money. If you want to modify support, file with the court. She responded 3 hours later. Corin's trying to help. Maybe if you were more reasonable, we wouldn't have to go through courts? Then he should understand that these things go through legal channels, not phone harassment. God, you're difficult. Nola deserves better financial support. She's getting exactly what the court calculated based on actual expenses and our incomes. The court calculated based on my old income. 2 weeks later, I got served with papers. Talia was petitioning to increase child support by 45%. The support modification trap. The petition listed all kinds of reasons why I should pay more. Nola's expenses had increased. Talia's income had decreased because she was working fewer hours to prioritize family time. I had the financial capacity to contribute more. She needed relief from the repayment order because it was creating financial hardship. What wasn't on paper was Corin's involvement, but I knew exactly whose idea this was. The guy was a freeloader who'd latched onto Talia, moved into her place without contributing anything, and decided my child support checks needed to be bigger to fund his lifestyle. I called my lawyer, laid out the situation. They're asking for a 45% increase, he said, reviewing the papers. They also want relief from the repayment order. Claims financial hardship. She created her own financial hardship by voluntarily reducing her hours and supporting a grown man who doesn't work. That's what we'll argue. Courts don't typically reward voluntary underemployment, especially when she's still under a repayment order for theft. Can they really get the repayment dismissed? Given that it was court-ordered restitution for stealing from you? Unlikely. But we'll need to show that her reduced income is a choice, not a necessity. Any evidence this new husband isn't contributing? He calls himself a wealth manager but doesn't have an actual job. Nola says he's always home, never goes to an office, just sits around talking about deals that never materialize. That's going to be very relevant. If there's another adult in the household who could be contributing but isn't, the court won't look favorably on asking you to compensate for his unemployment. I spent the next week compiling evidence. Receipts, bank statements, every shred of documentation showing what I actually spent on Nola versus what the child support calculation covered. It was easily double. Soccer league, art classes, school supplies, clothes shopping, medical copays. I covered way more than my legal obligation. But while doing all this paperwork, that old doubt crept back in. Nola didn't really look like me. Never had. Different eye color, different facial structure, different build. I'd chalked it up to genetics being weird. But now, The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out. In the meantime, Corin kept escalating. Started showing up at Nola's soccer games, sitting close to me in the stands, making comments. You know, if you just agreed to the increase, we wouldn't have to do all this court nonsense, he said during one game. If you wanted to avoid court, you shouldn't have filed a petition. Talia filed it. I'm just supporting her. Right, because you're so supportive. Tell me, how much rent do you pay? That's between me and my wife. But my income is everyone's business? You're already paying child support. Just pay a little more. It's not that complicated. I'm paying the court-mandated amount. If that's not enough for the lifestyle you want, maybe you should get a real job instead of pretending to work from home. His face flushed. I work plenty. Doing what? Watching CNBC and trading stocks with paper money? You don't know anything about my career. I know you live in my ex-wife's apartment without paying rent. I know you convinced her to reduce her income. And I know you're pushing her to squeeze more money out of me because you're too lazy to earn your own. That's not a career. That's being a leech. Watch your mouth. Or what? You gonna hit me? Please try. I'd love to add assault charges to this case and watch you try to explain to a judge why an unemployed man living off my child support has the guts to get violent. He stood up and walked away. Nola scored a goal, and I cheered, pretending my hands weren't shaking. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about the money, about Corin's obsession with squeezing more out of me, about how none of this made sense unless there was something I was missing. The doubt came back stronger. Nola's face that didn't match mine. Her mannerisms that seemed foreign. 5 years of raising a kid who might not even be mine. What if Nola wasn't mine? The thought sat there like a rock in my gut. Because if she wasn't mine, I'd spent 5 years raising someone else's kid, paying child support for someone else's kid, getting manipulated by my ex-wife and her freeloader husband for more money to support someone else's kid. I opened my laptop and started researching paternity law. Turned out, in my state, if you're married when the kid is born, you're automatically the legal father. Doesn't matter if you're the biological father, the law assumes you are. Your name goes on the birth certificate. You're on the hook. End of story. But there's an exception. If you can prove paternity fraud, that the mother knowingly lied about paternity, you can petition to vacate it. Not easy. Definitely not guaranteed, but possible. The more I read, the more I realized I needed to know the truth. Not just for the money, though that was part of it, but because I'd spent 5 years living a lie if my gut was right. I called my lawyer the next morning. I want a paternity test. Paternity. And that's going to complicate things. I don't care. Do it. Make it a condition of any support modification. They want more money? They agree to the test first. Non-negotiable. Silence on the other end. Then, you understand this could blow up your relationship with Nola, right? If she's mine, we'll deal with that conversation. If she's not, then I've been paying for someone else's kid while they try to squeeze me for more. I want confirmation before I pay another dime. I'll draft the counteroffer. Be prepared for fallout. My lawyer sent the counteroffer the next day. Simple terms. I would agree to discuss a support modification if Talia agreed to a court-ordered paternity test first. Talia's response came within hours. Not through her lawyer, through a series of increasingly unhinged text messages. You're questioning if Nola is yours? After 5 years? Are you freaking serious? This is insane. You're insane. Corin was right about you. You're just trying to get out of your responsibilities. You're a deadbeat. That's what you are. I didn't respond. Let my lawyer handle communication. She called me 17 times that evening. I didn't answer. Blocked her number after the 10th one. The custody exchange that week was supposed to happen at Nola's school. I showed up at the parking lot at 5:30 like always. Soccer practice was wrapping up, parents milling around, kids loading into cars. Talia's car was already there. She was standing next to it with Corin, both of them watching me pull in. Something about their posture, tense, aggressive, set off alarm bells. Nola ran over as I got out. Dad, did you see my goal today? I did. That was awesome. Talia walked over fast. Too fast. Her face was red, eyes wild. We need to talk. Right now. About what? About this paternity test nonsense you're pulling. That's between our lawyers. The heck it isn't. You're trying to abandon your daughter. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm asking for medical confirmation before agreeing to increase my financial obligations. That's reasonable. She's 5 years old. You've been her father since she was born. You don't just get to decide she's not yours because you don't want to pay more money. Other parents were starting to notice. Kids stopping their conversations, phones coming out. This isn't the place for this, I said quietly. You don't get to decide that. Her voice was getting louder, that entitled edge sharp and cutting. You're her father. You don't just get to walk away when it's inconvenient. I'm asking for a paternity test as a condition of you're abandoning your child because you're cheap. That's what this is. You'd rather save a few $100s than take care of your daughter. Nola was crying. Parents were pulling out phones. Corin just stood there watching like this was exactly what he wanted. A scene that would make me look like the bad guy. Talia, stop. You're scaring Nola. I'm scaring her? You're the one questioning if she's even yours. What kind of father does that? A father who's being asked to pay more money while supporting your unemployed husband. Now back up. She shoved me, both hands against my chest, hard enough to make me take a step back. Stop pushing me. She shoved me again. You're not doing this. You're not getting out of your responsibilities. Talia, stop. She swung. Open-handed slap that caught me across the face, hard enough to make my ear ring. The parking lot went silent. You piece of trash, she hissed. This is what you do? Question your own kid? I touched my face. It was already hot where she'd hit me. You just assaulted me in front of witnesses. I barely touched you. You hit me. In a public parking lot. In front of our daughter and about 30 other people. I pulled out my phone. I'm calling the police. Her face went white. You're not. I absolutely am. I dialed 911. Yes, I need to report an assault. School parking lot on Maple Street. My ex-wife just hit me during a custody exchange. Corin finally moved, grabbing Talia's arm. We're leaving. You're not going anywhere. Cops are on their way. This is ridiculous, Corin said. She barely slapped you. Don't be dramatic. You want to explain to the police why you think assault is okay? The cops showed up 8 minutes later. 2 officers, both calm and professional, took statements from me, from Talia, from 4 different parents who'd witnessed everything. One parent had actually filmed the whole thing, texted it to me right there. Talia tried to claim I'd provoked her, that she barely touched me, that I was making it bigger than it was. Same entitled attitude she'd had during our entire marriage. But the video showed everything. The officer looked at the video, looked at Talia, and said, Ma'am, you're being charged with assault. This is insane. I didn't hurt him. He's fine. You struck him in the face. There are multiple witnesses and video evidence. That's assault. He deserves it. He's trying to abandon his daughter. That's irrelevant to the assault charge. She started crying. Corin tried to argue that I was overreacting, that real men don't call the cops over a slap. The officers didn't care. Wrote up the report, gave me a case number, told me I could request a restraining order if needed. I sat in my car in that parking lot for 20 minutes after everyone left, just processing. Talia had completely lost it. Hit me in public, in front of our kid, in front of witnesses and cameras. And I had it all documented. I called my lawyer that night. We need to file for the paternity test immediately. Not as a condition anymore. Just get it ordered. I'll file the motion first thing tomorrow. Given the assault and your stated concerns, the judge will likely approve it. Do it. The court ordered the DNA test 3 days later. Judge reviewed the assault report, watched the parking lot video, listened to my concerns about paternity doubt. Combined with the assault, the judge approved testing. Given these circumstances, documented assault, stated paternity concerns, and the respondent's violent reaction to a reasonable request, this court finds sufficient cause to order paternity testing. Talia tried to fight it. Her lawyer argued emotional harm, established parental relationship, best interests of the child. The judge shut it down. Ma'am, you assaulted the child's father in a public parking lot. If he is in fact the biological father, this test will confirm that, and we can proceed with the support modification. If he's not, then this entire support modification request is based on fraud. Either way, we're doing the test. The DNA collection happened at a lab. Mouth swabs, sealed containers, chain of custody documentation. Nola didn't understand why. Thought it was some medical thing. Talia looked like she might throw up the entire time. Corin waited in the lobby, probably too arrogant to show concern. The waiting was brutal. 3 weeks of knowing my entire life might change depending on what some lab results said. 3 weeks of Talia and Corin radio silent, except for bare minimum custody exchanges. I didn't tell anyone except my brother. Kept going to work, showed up for Nola's activities, acted normal. But inside, I was just waiting. The results came back on day 21. My lawyer called me at work. We got the DNA results, he said. And 0% probability that you're Nola's biological father. I sat there in my office chair, phone pressed to my ear, waiting to feel something. Anger, relief, shock. Instead, I just felt this weird hollowness. 0%? Completely excluded as the biological father. The lab report is very clear. There's no genetic relationship whatsoever. So she lied. For 5 years. Yes. And given the circumstances, the gambling theft during your marriage, the assault, the support modification attempt, this constitutes clear paternity fraud. What's our next move? We file to vacate paternity and terminate your support obligation. We'll also be filing a civil suit for fraud and seeking restitution for all support payments made under false pretenses. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks out. Emergency motion given the DNA results and the ongoing support modification case. But there was one more thing I needed to know. Can we request Corin submit to testing? On what grounds? Call it a hunch. If she cheated on me, got pregnant, and has been lying about paternity, Corin shows up 6 months after our divorce, acting like he already knows everything about Nola. What if he's known all along? That's actually worth pursuing. I'll request it. The judge agreed, ordered Corin to submit DNA testing as well, to establish biological parentage and determine if there was prior knowledge of paternity fraud. Corin's test came back 5 days later. 50% DNA match. He was Nola's biological father. My lawyer called with the news and I just started laughing. Couldn't help it. The sheer audacity of it. Corin had spent months demanding I pay more money to raise his own kid while he sat at home pretending to work. There's one more thing, my lawyer said. We subpoenaed their text messages and emails as part of discovery. Found messages between them dated 10 months ago. They'd done one of those at-home ancestry DNA kits. Corin's results showed a paternal match to Nola. So they knew. They knew. For at least 10 months, they knew he was the biological father, and they still filed to increase your support, while he lived in her apartment without contributing to expenses. They didn't just commit fraud, they planned it. Everything clicked into place. The DNA kit Nola had mentioned, Corin showing up confident and pushy. The way he'd immediately started demanding more money, he wanted me to pay more to raise his own kid while he freeloaded. So she got pregnant by him, while married to me, let me believe Nola was mine for 5 years, divorced me, married the actual father, and then tried to make me pay more child support for his kid while he sits at home pretending to work. That's the situation, yes. And the text messages show they discussed it explicitly. There's one where he says, "Don't tell him yet. Keep collecting for now." This wasn't uncertainty. It was deliberate fraud. What happens now? We file to vacate paternity and terminate support. We'll also file civil fraud charges against both of them. The court may refer this for criminal prosecution given the deliberate deception. Can we get the money back? With this level of documented fraud? Absolutely. Plus damages. The hearing was brutal. Talia and Corin showed up looking destroyed. Talia could barely make eye contact. Corin kept whispering frantically to their lawyer. My lawyer presented everything. The DNA results showing zero paternity. The test showing Corin was the biological father. The text messages proving they knew the truth 10 months ago. The assault video. The police report. The pattern of financial exploitation going back to the gambling theft. The judge read through the documents with pure disgust on his face. So let me make sure I understand this correctly, he said, looking at Talia. You conceived a child with Mr. Corin while married to the plaintiff. You allowed him to believe he was the father for 5 years. You collected child support from him for approximately 2.5 years post-divorce, while simultaneously owing him repayment for funds you stole during the marriage. You then married the biological father. You confirmed his paternity via home DNA testing 10 months ago. And subsequently, you filed to increase child support from the non-biological father while living with the actual biological father, who contributes nothing to household expenses. Is that accurate? Talia's lawyer tried to interrupt, but the judge held up his hand. Ma'am, I'm asking you directly. It's complicated, Your Honor. It's not complicated. It's fraud. Clear, documented, deliberate fraud. He turned to Corin. And you, sir. When did you become aware you were the biological father? Corin's lawyer whispered something. Corin cleared his throat. About 10 months ago, Your Honor. Via home DNA testing? Yes. And you said nothing. Instead, you moved into the defendant's home, contributed nothing financially based on testimony, and actively pressured the plaintiff to increase child support payments for your own biological child. I was trying to ensure Nola had adequate support from the wrong person while you sat at home unemployed. My lawyer stood up. Your Honor, we have text messages showing explicit discussion of continuing to collect support from my client even after they confirmed paternity. This wasn't accidental. It was planned fraud. He submitted the messages. The judge read them, and his face went from disgusted to furious. Mr. Corin, you wrote, and I quote, "Don't tell him yet. Keep collecting for now." You knowingly allowed fraud to continue while freeloading off the defendant and planning to increase the fraud. Corin's face went white. The judge ruled from the bench. Paternity vacated immediately. Child support terminated. Corin ordered to be placed on the birth certificate as the legal father within 30 days. The remaining balance on Talia's theft repayment to continue. Case referred to the prosecutor for criminal fraud investigation. Then came the part I'd been waiting for. Additionally, given the severity and duration of this fraud, combined with the assault charge and the defendant's history of financial misconduct, I'm ordering full restitution for all child support payments made under false pretenses. The calculation shows $32,000 paid over approximately 2.5 years. Given the documented fraud, prior theft, assault, and Mr. Corin's participation in the scheme, I'm also awarding legal fees and punitive damages. Total restitution, $75,000. Joint and several liability. Both defendants are equally responsible. Talia gasped. Corin looked like he'd been hit by a truck. Your Honor, that's excessive, their lawyer started. What's excessive is committing paternity fraud for 5 years, collecting support under false pretenses while owing restitution for prior theft, attempting to increase that fraudulent support, assaulting the victim when confronted, and having the biological father freeload while demanding more money. $75,000 is more than fair. You have 90 days to establish payment arrangements or face contempt charges and potential jail time. This hearing is concluded. I stepped back from Nola for now. She didn't lie to me, but I refuse to stay in their mess just to keep being used. If she wants answers when she's older, I'll give them to her straight. We walked out of that courtroom. I headed straight for the exit, but Talia's voice caught me in the hallway. Wait, please? I stopped but didn't turn around. What? Can we talk? Somewhere private? We have nothing to discuss. Corin appeared next to her, his face red. Look, man, we messed up. We know that. But $75,000 is going to destroy us. We're asking you to work with us. Maybe we can settle for less. I turned around slowly, looked him dead in the eye. You committed fraud against me for 5 years. You confirmed you were her father 10 months ago, and still let me keep paying. Then you tried to make me pay more while you sat on your behind pretending to work. And now you want mercy? The restitution is going to ruin us. Not my problem. Nola's going to suffer. That's your daughter. Your responsibility. You wanted to play house while I paid for it? Congratulations. Now you get to actually support your own kid instead of making someone else do it. We didn't know how to... You're a grown man with a child. Figure it out. Get a real job. Stop pretending to be a wealth manager and actually contribute something for once in your pathetic life. His hands clenched. You don't know anything. I know you're a freeloader. I know you've been living off my child support and her paycheck for months. I know you pushed her to reduce her income so you could squeeze more money out of me. I know exactly what you are. A parasite who found a meal ticket and tried to upgrade it by tapping my wallet. Well, that's over. You're Nola's father. You pay for her. Welcome to parenthood, Chief. Talia was sobbing. Please, I'm begging you. We can't pay that much. Can't you just... No. But you stole from me during our marriage. Let me raise another man's kid for 5 years. Tried to make me pay more. You committed fraud. These are consequences. Pay up or go to jail. Those are your options. I walked away. Didn't look back. The restitution hit them like a freight train. The court ordered wage garnishment at 35% of both their incomes until the debt was paid. Automatic, unavoidable, brutal. But that was just the beginning. The assault charge resulted in a guilty plea. Talia got 6 months probation, mandatory anger management classes, and a criminal record that made getting legal jobs almost impossible. Her law firm found out and fired her immediately for ethics violations. Corin's pretend career evaporated. Word got around about the fraud case. The few clients he had disappeared overnight. His income dropped to zero. The criminal fraud investigation moved fast. Prosecutor was angry about the calculated nature of the deception. Filed charges against both of them. Theft by deception, conspiracy to commit fraud, perjury and family court filings. Felony charges that came with potential prison time. They took a plea deal to avoid trial. Both got 2 years probation, community service, and restitution enforcement. But the felony convictions meant Talia could never work in law again, and Corin could forget any legitimate financial career. Their combined income crashed. Then the garnishments started hitting. 35% of nothing is still nothing. The court modified the garnishment to include any future income, any tax refunds, any windfalls. They were trapped. The eviction notice came about 6 weeks after the ruling. Couldn't make rent with no income and mounting debt. Had to move into a studio apartment in the worst part of town. Nola's stuff got crammed into a corner. No privacy, no space, just poverty. But here's where it gets even better. The stress destroyed Corin. Started having panic attacks, couldn't sleep, lost weight because they couldn't afford decent food. His precious ego couldn't handle going from wealth manager to unemployed felon paying restitution for fraud. He started having stress-induced health problems, high blood pressure, chest pain, constant anxiety, emergency room visits they couldn't afford, medical bills piling up on top of the restitution, the garnishments taking chunks of any money that came in from Talia's new retail job at minimum wage. Talia ended up working 2 retail jobs just to keep a roof over their heads. Folding clothes, running registers, coming home exhausted to their tiny apartment. She'd gone from paralegal at a corporate firm to retail clerk with a criminal record. Her LinkedIn still said legal professional. Reality said cashier at discount store, felon, fraud convict. Corin finally got a job. Warehouse work, loading trucks, moving inventory, minimum wage, back-breaking labor. The wealth manager fantasy officially dead. Now he was just another guy in a reflective vest earning barely enough to survive, while watching 35% disappear to pay back the man he'd tried to scam. His health kept deteriorating. The physical labor combined with the stress led to more ER visits. One time, he threw his back out so bad he couldn't work for 3 weeks. No work meant no income meant no money. For the garnishment meant contempt charges hanging over his head. Nola's life imploded. The tiny studio apartment was depressing. Her school district was dangerous. Metal detectors, fights, underfunded programs. No more private soccer leagues, no more art classes, no more nice clothes. Her birthday that year was gas station cake and dollar store presents. She tried to reach out twice, left voicemails saying she missed me, asking why I wouldn't talk to her. I deleted both without responding. Not because I wanted to hurt her. She hadn't done anything wrong, but she wasn't my daughter. The DNA proved that. I'd requested no visitation during the hearing. Judge approved, citing best interest given the circumstances. The money kept coming in. Slow at first because they had no income, but once the garnishment started hitting Talia's paychecks, it flowed steady, every 2 weeks like clockwork. Watching that money return felt like justice in liquid form. By month 6, they'd paid back about $7,000, $68,000 to go. At first, the payments were small because Talia was still looking for work after getting fired. Once she started working retail, the garnishments picked up. By month 12, they'd paid back about $16,000 total, $59,000 to go. Talia had added a second job, and Corin finally got the warehouse gig, so the garnishments increased substantially. By month 18, they'd paid back about $27,000 total, $48,000 to go. The garnishment was destroying them, and there was nothing they could do about it. They tried once more to negotiate, sent a letter through their lawyer offering to settle for $35,000 instead of $75,000. Our clients are experiencing severe financial hardship. The garnishment is unsustainable. They're requesting mercy. My lawyer responded, the court order stands. Full payment or contempt charges. Those are the options. Corin ended up in the ER again. Stress-induced heart attack scare. Turned out to be anxiety, but the medical bills were real. $5,000 they didn't have. The hospital sued. More garnishments, more debt. His health spiraled. Lost 40 pounds in 6 months. Looked like a ghost. The cocky finance bro who'd called me chief and demanded more money was gone. Now he was just a broken man working a manual labor job he could barely handle, watching his paycheck disappear to pay back the guy he'd defrauded. Talia wasn't much better, working 70 hours a week between 2 jobs, coming home to a studio apartment she could barely afford, dealing with a husband whose health was falling apart. The gambling addict who'd stolen $40,000 and committed paternity fraud now couldn't even afford groceries. The criminal probation officers were ruthless. Random substance tests, weekly check-ins, community service requirements. Miss one appointment and they'd violate probation, which meant jail time. The stress was constant, grinding, inescapable. People in their social circle found out about the fraud case. Word spread fast. Friends disappeared. Family stopped talking to them. Talia's mother wouldn't even return her calls. They were pariahs. Corin tried calling me again from a new number. I picked up by accident. We need to talk about the payments, he said. His voice sounded destroyed, tired, defeated, broken. No, we don't. Please, just listen. I'm begging you. The medical bills are burying us. I can't work anymore. My back's destroyed, and my blood pressure's through the roof. We're going to end up homeless. Should have thought about that before you committed fraud. I know we messed up. You didn't mess up. You calculated, planned, and executed a fraud scheme. For months. While knowing the truth, while living off my money, while demanding more. That's not a mistake. That's criminal behavior. which is why you're a convicted felon now. The stress is killing me, literally. The doctor said I'm at risk for a real heart attack. Then maybe you shouldn't have committed fraud. Actions, consequences. You wanted to play games with my money? Now you pay. Every penny, however long it takes. Nola's living in poverty because of this. Nola's living in poverty because her biological father is a freeloader who committed fraud instead of getting a real job. That's on you. You're her father. You support her. That's how it works. I'm begging you. Beg all you want. You're paying $75,000. Not a penny less. The court said so. If you don't like it, take it up with the judge. Oh, wait. You can't, because you're a convicted felon on probation. Funny how that works. I hung up, blocked the number. The payments continued. Slow, steady, relentless. Every 2 weeks like clockwork. My life? Simple. Clean, free of lies and freeloaders. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.